All right, good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for Tuesday, July 15, 2025. It's 9:02 a.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier to my left, Commissioner Rachel Grant, Commissioner Emily Klaus. Commissioner Carolina Mejia is unable to join us today and has excused absence from all scheduled board activities. We appreciate the understanding in her absence and will ensure she is updated on any key items or discussions that take place throughout the day. County Manager Leonard Hernandez, Assistant County Managers Jennifer Walker and Josh Cummings, and Clerk of the Board Amy Davis. We have an agenda for this afternoon. We're picking back up with board business. So this is first review of this afternoon's agenda. So there may be, more thorough discussion or need to review or set aside items. That's kind of par for the course. So we'll just see how far we can get through the items. And I've got a new, hopefully everyone's got the new version. There was one added item on a new version that was distributed this morning, I believe, or late yesterday. So looking at that, we've got 2 p.m. call to order, Pledge of Allegiance led by District 1, which is Commissioner Mejia, so it'll be led by District 2.
Sure.
Okay, let's go with District 2. Land acknowledgement, approval of agenda, standard items. We have 2 presentations, a consent proclamation for pretrial probation parole supervision week, and a consent proclamation for Disability Pride Month.
Morning, Commissioners. Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. This afternoon, we will have Carrie Hennon from Pretrial Services joining us to speak to the Pretrial Probation and Parole Supervision Week proclamation. And we will be joined by the Thurston Mason County Developmental Disabilities Coalition Coordinator for Disability Pride Month.
Can you remind me what our process is? I mean, we've done 2 or 3 different things, and I just don't remember what. So how is this going to go procedurally to have the consent proclamation? I just call for a speaker.
Yes, each proclamation will have just one speaker.
And then
we won't recess.
We won't recess. We will read the proclamation?
No, we will not read the proclamation either. Okay,
so the approval of it or the action behind it is just part of the consent agenda? Or
so there is no formal action with the proclamation. Just announcing the proclamation.
Okay,
it
doesn't require a vote. Okay, so just call for a speaker, thank the speaker, go to the next speaker, and then move on to the public comment. Okay, let me just write that down so I remember. No recess, 1 speaker, no reading. Okay, perfect. Any questions from the board on that? Okay, public comment and county manager's update. Anything? Okay, then we'll have our consent agenda. We have, I think, 16 items now. So let's go through them. Number 1, resolution for electronic payments policy.
We have Joe Wolf with us.
Yep.
Morning.
Yeah. Hi, this is Joe Wolf. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Well, Commissioner Menser, members of the board, I'm Joe Wolf. I'm the Financial Services Manager. And this policy, my understanding is this has been in the works since the last financial audit. And this was a recommendation from the State Auditor's Office to update our electronics payment policy and more closely align it with our internal controls and security measures that are offered by our bank. We're replacing a policy that's about 10 years old, and so this is really just an update to ensure alignment with those things. So the only changes that you're going to see in this is, of course, we're using the new policy structure, but it adds a statement requiring adherence to the county internal control policies and procedures, and then specifies that bank offered security measures must be used and each user must have a separate banking user ID. This is a policy that we've worked through with the Treasurer's Office and has been approved by the Financial Management Committee. And so now it's just a matter of adopting these changes to the policy and implementing.
Questions for Joe? Okay. Okay, thank you, Joe. Those are the quick-
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Number 2 is an added item, I understand, a resolution for purchase of incident command trailer, central services.
We have our Fleet Services Manager, Bruce, today. Thanks, Bruce, for joining us.
Morning.
Fleet Services Manager. I'm here to request a resolution to purchase off of GSA contract a incident command trailer for the Homeland Security Region 3 Incident Management Team. This is part of the ER&R 2025 replacement schedule, and I'm here to answer any questions you have on this item. It's required to pass a resolution to purchase off of GSA per purchase.
Any questions for Bruce?
This wasn't on the copy we got yesterday. Did this just come to our attention?
Can you speak to it?
It wasn't, it was, it was added prior to our 24-hour deadline to post agendas. So one packet was distributed early yesterday morning, and this corrected agenda that was posted online was printed and distributed yesterday afternoon.
Okay. My question was on like the timing of the, not the timing of being like posted, but just when I was reviewing the agenda yesterday, this item wasn't on there, so I haven't had a chance to review it. So I was just wondering how it came up, so.
Yeah, why is it late effectively? Why didn't you make the time for it?
I think it was brought up to Central Services leadership that the resolution was required to purchase the trailer through the GSA and versus just going out to purchase the trailer. So that's why the item was added.
There's a certain element of time sensitivity to these because we get the quotes and they're only good for a limited period of time. And this one in particular is only good through the 8th of August.
So it wasn't originally understood that we needed this resolution as an extra step. You guys were already going through the process, but this was an extra step that wasn't recognized until late. Is that that's what I thought Amy said?
That was my understanding. Nothing's not here to speak to it.
So we have until the 8th to make this purchase, so well, it's not necessarily a recommendation, but if commissioners wanted more time, it's to be added to the 29th meeting, give more time for review.
Yes.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. I just like to read all the
Sure.
contracts on the agenda, and this wasn't one that I had the opportunity to review before today.
We totally understand that.
I'm okay with that. I think that's
Yeah,
sounds fair.
we have till the 29th, and knowing that we're coming off of recess, go ahead and suggest that this item be pushed to the 29th.
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Grant, is that okay?
Mhm.
All right, so let's, we'll move forward on the 29th.
And just an additional note that this is the posted agenda for the 2 p.m. meeting. So the item will need to be pulled from the agenda at the start of the 2 p.m. meeting.
Okay, we're just tabled. All right.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. Item 3, subrecipient agreement for fiscal year 24 State Homeland Security Program with McLean Black Lake Fire Department. This is emergency services item. All right. Good morning. I'm Miller Todd.
Good morning, Ben Miller Todd, Thurston County Emergency Services Director. With that, we do have a short amendment that we're making to our fiscal year 24 adjustment. It's a $7,000 adjustment. Ultimately, what happened is when we get return funds from other regional partners, we can reapply those to other voted on. Regional partners vote on where the money should be applied, and they'd like to apply additional $7,000 to our SORT team, our Special Operations and Rescue Team. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I know that this falls well within the 10% that normally comes before you. However, when we do execute specific agreements with each of the entities, not the aggregate dollar figure of the 250,000, this did exceed that 10% for the contract specifically with McLean Black Lake. And so we do need to reapproach you for permission to reapply those funds.
Question?
I have a question. So this is between McLean Black Lake Fire Department and DHS. Is that right?
And ourselves. And so ultimately, they're the subrecipient of a grant that we received, that
Okay.
we manage, yes.
So then the relationship is between the fire department and your team, not
Yes.
necessarily the fire department and DHS?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Item 4 is collective bargaining agreement with Deputy Sheriff's Association.
Morning, Commissioners. As you know, in 2024, we had our uniformed collective bargaining agreements that expired. This one is for the Deputy Sheriff's Association. It did move into mediation, and we were able to successfully come to an agreement. So the request today is for the commissioners to ratify the contract. It has been ratified by the union members. And the term of the contract is 2025 through 2027.
Okay. Had many sessions related to this item. Any questions at this juncture from the board? Okay, thank you, Maria.
Okay.
Let's go to the next item, resolution to extend end dates on positions due to Blake funding, human resources.
Okay. As you know, we have a number of positions that are funded by this Blake program. Some of them were set to expire on June 30th, but we did get additional funding that would extend them through June 30th of 2026. The positions are a judicial assistant, 2 deputy prosecuting attorneys, legal assistant 2, as well as defense attorney 3 in the Office of Public Defense. On that.
So this is just a positive, more funding, so we need to extend the dates of the positions since the funding came through from the state.
Absolutely.
It's good news.
Sounds straightforward, good news. Questions? Good on that item, all right. Got another one here, resolution for accounting assistant 3.
Yes.
Emergency services.
This is a request coming from Medic 1 in the Emergency Services Department. They have had almost 70% in budget increase since 2020, which has also come with a commensurate increase in financial responsibilities. They currently have their fiscal manager doing a lot of these duties. They made a request to create accounting assistant 3 to take some of those lower level responsibilities. HR analyst has reviewed this request, and it does fit within the requested classification. We've also collaborated with the budget office, and they have confirmed that the funding is 100% with Medic 1 funds. There is no impact to the general fund, and it is a non-union position, so we did not have to work with the union on this one. Questions?
Questions on item 6?
Yeah, I have a procedural question. Just because we've been talking a lot, like during our budget amendment conversations about position requests, I just am wondering, like, procedurally for an item like this, what is the responsibility of the departments when requesting new positions?
Yeah, so this position, since it's not an impact to the general fund, they go through a process where they start with human resources and they work with the budget team to determine a couple things. What's the funding source, and is the funding source a dedicated long-term funding source? So we know that it will not be a impact. So is it grant funding? Is it one-time funding? And in this case, the department worked with both HR and the budget team to show that it has the funding. And also in the when it comes to emergency services, they have an internal working committee that vets this, and that is part of that recommendation that came through as well.
Okay,
Can you just kind of remind everybody how Medic One is separately funded and has its own funding sources and?
Medic One is separately funded and has its
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
funding sources.
yeah.
It's a good reminder that they're a department within the county, but they have dedicated tax support that goes directly to them, that the county does oversee.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's why we feel confident bringing this one forward, because the director has been working internally with his subcommittees, identifying the workflow, has talked to HR about this some time ago, and has identified a growing need. And then we've vetted to make sure that their funding sources are going to be able to sustain that increase.
okay,
Yeah, just like we think about public safety sales tax dollars as a separate fund, and so we're bringing on new deputies and things like that while we're talking about other departments not being able to be funded. It's kind of the same thing here. They have a levy schedule that they go by, and they have their own independent funding source.
that's good. You mentioned the internal review committee said this was okay. Can you, what's the makeup of that committee? Is that staff or?
Yeah, not necessarily a committee, but departments, so they touch base with human resources, they touch base with the budget team, and there's a different function in each set before then it's gonna be determined if it's recommended to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Next up is information technology. Item 7, sole source renewal of Justice AV System, or JABS, support agreement.
Good morning, Sherry Ilg, IT Director. I am requesting approval to renew our JABS maintenance contract in the amount of $45,000. JABS is the Justice AV solution used in the courtrooms. We are in the process of replacing them with a different solution, but until we're done, we still need to maintain support for the existing equipment.
Replace, like, what does that look like, the process of trying to?
It's a long process. There's 16 courtrooms. They're busy, so we have to fit in those replacements when they're available.
I would say, Commissioners, that this is a replacement of this function is high priority. I mean, the courts greatly depend upon their ability to use this system, and so I appreciate the work that our IT department is doing in coordination. It's not an easy transition because you can't turn it off
Right.
and work on it and then bring a new system on. You have to do this dovetail approach of starting to implement a new system while the old system is going until you effectively transition the old system out of play.
That doesn't even seem possible. So, I mean, you have like new cameras that can work, or new pieces
It's
that
mostly
can.
the recording portion of it, so there's, an appliance in the courtroom recording the video, and the JABS one solution to record both audio and video, but the new solution is separate, and it's not on proprietary equipment, so it's not as hard to maintain as the JABS solution is.
Okay. All right, any questions, further questions for Sherry? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Going on to item 8, which is Amendment 1 to the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Contract with OHRS, Olympic Health and Recovery Services.
Good morning, Jen Freiheit, Public Health and Social Services Director, with Katie Strozek, our opioid and overdose program manager. This is a request for the board to approve the requested amendment to the contract with Olympic Health and Recovery Services for the law enforcement assisted diversion case management services, increasing the award for $405,000 to a total of $1,303,040, and extending the end date from June 30th to August 31st. Here to answer any questions.
Can you explain a little bit better, like, this money's coming from where to, from whom to whom? Like, this is coming from local Thurston County to OHRS, or is this a state pass-through of some kind, or?
Yeah, so last year in August, the board approved both a new contract with Healthcare Authority as well as an amendment to our existing contract with Healthcare Authority. The state had additional funds that they received, both state funding and federal funding for the expansion of LEAD programs. And so due to Thurston County having a program that's been well established with proven success, Healthcare Authority gave us additional funding, one through an amendment through our current contract as well as an additional one. So these two amendments, this item as well as the next item, are just allocating that funding that we received from Healthcare Authority at the end of summer.
That's what I was hoping out here. Okay, well, great. Any other questions for you guys? All right, that sounds good. And then the next one is, maybe you guys could talk about where OHRS plugs in versus BHASO.
Yeah, so there's the two items today. One is an amendment with OHRS and one is an amendment with Thurston Mason BHASO. OHRS provides the direct service for the LEAD program, so the actual participant-based case management services, and Thurston Mason BHASO provides the program management, so looking at operations, operating the OWG and the community-based relationships. Both are part of the evidence-based LEAD model, and we're required to have both. But
What is OWG?
The operating work group.
Okay. Good job.
And so it's two separate parts to our LEAD program, and one is housed with OHRS and one is housed with the ASO, so two separate amendments.
Okay, that's 8 and 9. Questions? Thank you. Some more good news this morning. Good. Item 10 is Public Health and Social Services, Amendment 7 to the consolidated contract.
Yes, amendment number 7, it's providing a decrease of $17,920 for a revised maximum of $6,073,840 for the duration of January 1, 2025 through December 31, 2027. It's amending the statement of work. This is for our on-site septic system management plan. Due to staffing and supervisory vacancies, we weren't able to spend this $17,000 prior to June 30th, so it is going back into the pot for other local health departments, but it will not lead to a drop in any of our services that we're providing, and there's no impact or implications at this time to our services provided.
So out of curiosity, like what was the total, like how much did we spend? We didn't spend 18, but we spent some other amount.
I would have to get that for you.
A lot of work got done though, right?
Correct.
Okay, this is a small piece of,
Yeah, it's just a small amount, $17,920 that we couldn't spend.
okay. Other questions for Dr. Freiheit on item 10? Okay. Then we move on to item 11, Public Health Social Services County Program Agreement for the School to Work Program.
Yes, and this is a request for the board to approve a county program contract with the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, to place high school graduates with developmental disabilities into jobs for the period of May 1, 2025 to September 30, 2026. And this program renews an ongoing agreement between the county and DSHS. Through this agreement, DVR pays the county $10,500 for each high school transition student who obtains a successful job placement in the community during one of their last 2 years of high school. And Mark Moffitt is here to help answer any questions.
Mark, anything you want to add?
The biggest change for this contract is that we are now serving students from 20 to 22 instead of 20 to 21, so they extended that extra year.
Any questions on item 11? No, good to go. Thank you. All right, moving on to 12, setting a public hearing for resolution.
For item 11.
We're getting a good window into the breadth of public health and social services.
I know. We are.
As we move to setting a resolution for intention to create Long Lake Management District number 25.
Correct. This is a request for the board to set a public hearing for August 5th, 2025 at 3:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as a matter that may be heard to receive and consider public comments on the resolution of intention to establish the Thurston County Lake Management District number 25.
This is like re-upping their, and it has to be, like, I just, these numbers, we created 23, so because it's like a brand new district, basically, it gets a new number and
Right,
they get to kind of start from scratch.
right.
I know there was some of our lake management leaders in Thurston County were working on a bill that they wanted to promote that did a lot of things, one of which was to kind of allow a more smoother way to just extend like management districts and not have to sort of start over
Come
like
back
this.
every time.
But it hasn't gone through yet. So, I don't know, any other questions on this? Long Lake's been around a really long time, and there's nothing really different about this, like they just want to keep doing what they've been doing, but they have to go through this process. Okay, any questions? No. All right, well, that should be interesting. Item 13 is setting, thank you. We have Public Works now for setting a public hearing to consider revisions to speed limit schedule for various county roads.
Good morning, Commissioners. Karen Weiss, Public Works Director.
Matt Unselman, County Engineer. E.
All right, with that start. So this is a request to set a public hearing for August 19th to consider changes to our speed limit schedule. We're proposing reductions to 8 roads in the county, as well as some minor administrative changes to the schedule. These recommendations are based on a process that we follow established by a resolution, that's 16142. We provided that information to the board previously, but just as a high-level recap of that, we conduct an engineering study. Our public works staff conducts an engineering study. Generally speaking, we set the speed limit within 10 miles per hour, that the speed 85% of the vehicles are traveling at or below, and within 10 miles per hour range, the majority of the vehicles are traveling. It allows for engineering judgment as a part of this evaluation. We look at things like road geometry, features, pedestrian usage, collision history, and also as a part of the process, we send letters to the residents of the adjacent roadways, informing them of the proposed change. This is a programmatic approach we had to speed limit revisions rather than bringing them 1 or 2 at a time. We bring them once a year to the board for consideration, and so therefore we're asking to set the public hearing for August for those changes that we're proposing based on this last year. Questions? And technical expert to my left.
I guess I would just like ask for, when you guys present this, you'll usually do a little bit of a preamble before the public hearing. If you could like maybe talk just a little more detail about that study and like what it means, the 80% of it, because I get confused on it sometimes, just so people understand, because if I feel like you said, we have this programmatic approach, and the better people understand it, the more it kind of calms people down, because they know that there's some thought behind it, some science, so to speak, or data.
Absolutely. Becky Kahn, our traffic engineer, will be doing the presentation, and she'll go through all the guidelines that Resolution 16142, did I get it right? Includes as far as like the pace speeds and 80.
Yeah, all of that.
All of that, because there is a lot that goes into setting the speed limit. Everybody thinks it's so simple. Oh, just go put up a new sign. No, there's a lot of regulation that goes in behind it, and a lot of liability, so we need to take it seriously.
And there has to be science behind it, otherwise it'd be arbitrary, and people would be asking you every other time to change it up, change it down. So thank you for the process you follow.
Yeah, it's good, so. Okay, any other questions for Public Works team? Only one Public Works item? Oh, you got more?
We got some more.
On the consent. Yeah, usually you guys have more than that. All right, next up is appointment to Solid Waste Advisory Committee, or SWAC. This is about appointing the Town of Bucota representative. And there's just basically we have to approve their
nomination for appointment. Correct.
Okay, and Laura Wilson actually know that person, so glad to see they got their seat filled. Any questions on that one? Okay, so we'll approve that, and then we'll have 2 voucher lists, June 2nd and June 9th. Questions? If there are none, we can move to department items. Public Health and Social Services has several. First one up is Encampment Resolution Program Contract, or ERP, program contract with Department of Commerce.
Correct, thank you. Jen Freiheit, Public Health and Social Services Director again. This is a request for the board to approve the contracts with Interfaith Works and the Low Income Housing Institute to fund 4 projects under the Encampment Resolution Program for a total value of $3,960,000. Public Health and Social Services provided a briefing here at the VOCC on April 23rd, 2025. The RHC then approved those recommendations on May 28th, and they were sent to Commerce on May 29th. And then on June 16th, Commerce came back with a revised decision. And I have Tom Webster here as well.
Hey, Commissioners, about, and items 1 and 2 interact together.
Correct.
So, but in addressing item number 1, the changes that the Department of Commerce made has created some pressure on our city partners, most notably Olympia, because based on what we brought to the Board of County Commissioners as it was recommended by the Regional Housing Council, it addressed all the projects that the cities and the county felt were important. So the change that Commerce made unfunded 2 of Olympia's projects. They since came back and added a small component, $50,000, I think, to each of the projects, more as a transitionary fund. But it still has created an environment where without those projects being fully funded, the capacity for placements of folks in encampments has had an impact on Olympia. We as a county didn't recommend it, nor did we bring that to the Board of County Commissioners. And so just wanted you to be aware of that there's that dialogue taking place and quite a bit of frustration about the recommendation that came from the Department of Commerce.
So can you, like, I've been here, Commissioner Fournier was telling me something about it, and there was some discussion at the mayor's meeting about it. Like, is the Commerce, so the money, when we were told, okay, we need like this much, you know, to kind of keep the right-of-way projects, I'll call them. And then, you know, we got like this much, like 2/3 or something, and then, but changes were made that then basically didn't actually reduced it from there or rediverted it, like you were saying, that not in the same buckets. Like, can you talk a little bit more about like what Commerce did and how that?
So at a high level, we knew that there was going to be a reduction of how many million, Tom?
Around 4 million.
4 million. So the RHC, I think it was the technical advisory group, sat down and put those dollars into buckets based on how to keep the different projects moving forward as they saw best. It wasn't that Commerce reduced it even more, it's that they changed the funding around. Most notably, they funded, gave additional dollars to the Maple Court project. And in order to do that, they defunded 2 projects, which were
Unity Commons and Olympia's Quinn Street Village. Sorry, Olympia's Quinn Street Village project.
So when we brought that to a board briefing prior to it being submitted to Commerce, the board saw the plan that the Regional Housing Council was recommending, the work that staff had put into it, and all of you gave the thumbs up that that looked like a good plan because it met the partners' needs. So, sorry, I thought it was feedback. So that being, so Commerce has reasons for those changes, but nonetheless, it still has impacted, most notably Olympia. And we stand at a place concerned about those changes because of the unfunding of those projects.
So that, but like Maple Court was a project that was part of like the right-of-way stuff.
Yes.
So they just like we were gonna more balance the money between the 3 and they shifted and they more front-loaded it toward Maple Court at the expense of the other 2.
I can speak to that, Tom.
Yeah, so Commerce asked us to put additional money into Maple Court than we had proposed. They also required us to put money into Lehigh's Lotus Court project, which was a project they put capital dollars in that opened in 2024. So they're requiring us to put $220,000 to support case management at that project. And that was not a project that we provided operational funds to in the past under right-of-way projects. So in a sense, that's a new activity that Commerce is asking us to fund. They put $2 million of capital into the construction of that project, and now they're requiring us to put in operating dollars for the case management to support that.
And then timing-wise, those changes came after we made our or after RHC and the board made its decisions based on our previous, like, I'm just trying to figure out the chronology of this.
So our RHC came together, made the dollars work. We had reported to the board that we were anticipating a reduction.
Yeah.
After the RHC came together, then, or was it, well, Tom brought that information here. The board looked at it, and because it worked for all the projects, then the information was submitted to Commerce as a request. Here's how we'd like the funding to be broken out. That's when then Commerce came back and said, well, we're gonna change the allocations. Not your amount, just where the dollars are being allocated.
Okay, and then, all right, so that all fits with my recollection and, you know, some of the new information I've heard. And I guess the question is, and Commissioner Fournier, you know, you talked about this yesterday, but like, what can anything be, what should we do? Like, is there something we should do to respond to those changes to help Unity Commons and Quinn Street be successful? Is there discretion? Yeah.
I have concerns and I wanna like figure out how to unpack, like, you know, what it is and how we got here and, you know, I'm not sure how to have those conversations exactly, but, you know, I recall those different conversations and us asking some very specific questions and, you know, I understand that while things are working out, we don't necessarily have all the answers, but I distinctly recall the board drafting, you know, a letter saying, hey, we want to make sure that we prioritize having essentially contingency funds out of the home fund in the event that something like this was to happen and these ongoing, you know, places like the Quince Village or whatever, we would have money from the home fund set aside, or that would be a priority to make sure that that was, you know, there to backfill, you know, like, I remember asking those questions and we wrote up a memo that went out to the RHC and to the other mayors saying, hey, be aware of this. You know, so like I'd like, if there's an opportunity for us to, you know, do two things, you know, one, send a group back to the Department of Commerce and say, hey, these aren't the priorities that we need. And then the other one, you know, like I want to understand where the home fund dollars are coming in and where they're going, because those are discretionary in the sense that can be used to backfill these Olympia programs where they're saying people are going to get, you know, thrown out on the street if they can't find money. That would be, if we're collecting home fund sales tax from the whole county and we're not preventing that kind of thing, and I don't, you know, it's hard to figure out what else we're doing with it. Like, I mean, those are my two concerns or thoughts.
On that, I could pipe up. On that first point, I mean, my understanding was that like Commerce is like, and you know, you can understand them coming, like they want the most money going to where they already put in capital dollars, right? That's probably what, I'm guessing that's the motivation for why they shifted. And I don't know that we're gonna change their mind about that. There's kind of a logic to that from their perspective. So, I mean, you know, not that I discount your question, like, is there a way to go back and is there any process for going back and asking for some change? But assuming that wasn't successful, then the question, I know Commissioner Mejia previously had asked for, like, at a more of a less emergency level, kind of like, we'd like to know where the home fund dollars have all gone over the last few years, just how we have a sense of it. Maybe we need to expedite that sort of conversation to get to kind of understanding, like, well, if there were dollars that could go to Quinn Street and Unity Commons, where would they be coming from? Like, what have we put them toward that would have to be then shifted away from, and what would be the impacts of that? Like, it's all a web, right? There's a lot of good projects going on.
The home fund, RCW 8214530, specifically says monies collected under this section may be used to offset reductions in state or federal funds for the purpose described above, and these are in those purposes. So it's like that, you know, that money is designed to backfill this kind of thing, and we were predicting that right-of-way funding was going to be decreased as, you know, as they stopped seeing people on right-of-ways. So it's our responsibility to step up and make sure that these things that we already created are being funded. In my mind, it's.
Commissioner Grant.
Well, I was going to say, you know, I think a lot of these conversations are happening, and quite a few of these conversations are happening at the Regional Housing Council, because it really is the Regional Housing Council that's looking at the complexity of all the different funds across the entire region in order to make sure that these things don't fall through the cracks. And so there are several different groups that are working on this outside of the Board of County Commissioners that are having these, really looking at, I mean, if you sit in and listen to some of those meetings, you'll see that they're looking strategically at what, like this week, there'll be more recommendations from like the State Advisory Council on Homelessness, and there are different things that are happening where they're having these kinds of meetings, making sure that, if, just because this was moved around in the backwards of the funding, other funding might be able to come to fruition. So I just want to remind folks that, there are a lot of hours of conversation going on behind the scenes that are not talked about here.
If they are having those conversations, I'd like to set aside a time to hear from our RHC rep on when those and how those have rolled out so that we can understand that those have taken place. So
my only concern is like, is there some, like, okay, we did something and I think it was logical and well-grounded, and now something got shifted on us. Do we need to do something now to mitigate the effects of what got shifted on us? That's what my concern.
A proposed suggestion is that because the mayor's, the chair, sent a letter about this funding, might be a good opportunity to try to get a meeting with Commerce with that same group and just to talk about the rationale. It at the very least puts on the radar how important those other projects are. And to Commissioner Grant's point, if there are other funds coming down, it heightens the understanding that if other funds become available, these are the projects we really want to be supportive of Olympia's ability to have more capacity to house folks, and the decrease of that is a problem in an environment where they are working hard in their city to address this need. We also don't want to put premature pressure on Maple Court, who's in the process of building out its capacity with the city of Lacey because of this environment. And so a recommendation could be we postpone the approval of these two items to the 29th to give time for the mayors and the chair to try to quickly have a meeting with Commerce and talk about that to see if there's any changes. If there are not, at least it highlights the need for additional funding for some of these other priority projects.
And I just want to bring up that, for the first thing, along with Commissioner Mejia, I really am interested in seeing a historical list of home fund dollars and how we've used them, and to get that background on direction that you guys may have set. But I think that one of the things that comes up for me around all of this is that, like we were just saying, that Commerce has had to come back and say, we're going to put case management funding towards Maple Court. So where things get complex, is that, that money could be used for projects like Unity Common, and case management funding for projects like this could be coming from somewhere else, because case management is a direct service, right? It's not a capital dollar funded thing. And because when you see things in the newspaper around, people are not getting, people are hanging around outside and doing this and that, it's because we need more case management. And case management can be funded through Medicaid dollars, it can be funded through the behavioral health organization, it can be funded through the ASO, it can be funded through all of these different complex, different funding sources that are coming through public health and or through state dollars. But if we haven't figured out for our region, for our county, for our area, how to best utilize those different blended funding sources, then we end up with situations like this, where Commerce has to come back and say, we must allocate funding directly to this, and then it takes from other projects. And so, I just think that it emphasizes the fact that we have to really be thinking critically about all the different funding sources we have at our disposal in Thurston County, and how we're using those.
Chair, we would be happy to expedite Commissioner Mejia's request about the home funds. And also a suggestion would be to invite Joe Avalos from the BHASO to come, and we can do a work session on available funding. He can update the commissioners, because I agree with Commissioner Grant. This is an environment where we want to lay out everything that's available to the county so we can have discussions. And so that could be a two-prong approach, if that's the commissioner's direction, to postpone these items to the 29th, to try to get quickly a meeting with city leaderships of Lacey and Olympia, Commerce in the county, and then also to have a work session to discuss home funds and invite Joe Avalos from BHASO to come and talk about the funding that he has available and how we can continue to partner together.
Commissioner Fournier, does that sound like a good approach?
Yeah, that would make me feel better.
I'm supportive of that. Commissioner Klaus, is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds good to me too.
Okay, that sounds really good. Thank you, County Manager. I think I was gonna say, just going to Commissioner Grant's point, I mean, I was 5 years on the BHASO board, and I routinely say that when asked that this is the most complicated thing as a commissioner that I've ever tried to get my mind around is the behavioral health funding and how it braids through and funds the different things that it funds. It's just really difficult. So I always welcome another work session, covering the same ground, hearing it over again, learning new things, new elements, and the landscape changes. It's constantly changing. It seems like every year there's new parameters and stuff, so it's always good. So I think that'd be great.
Great.
All right, so then that would mean items 1 and 2 go to the 29th. Let's go to the next item. This is homeless services contract with Department of Commerce. Am I correct in that this is kind of a separate thing? Let you guys give us an overview.
This is separate. This is a request for the board to approve the housing contracts with 17 different nonprofits over 49.
State of the Commerce.
Oh, am I on the wrong one?
Number three.
I had my thing out of order.
They're both homeless services contracts.
Sorry.
In the down.
Okay, hold on 1 minute, please. Sorry. I had my thing out of order here. Okay, go ahead and start.
All right, so this is an interagency agreement with the Department of Commerce under the Consolidated Homeless Grant. There's multiple funding sources under the Consolidated Homeless Grant for $25,313,372. This is a 2-year contract, and this is what I would call our legacy or core homeless services funding that we get from the state. So this is historically the traditional funding we get from the state, from the
Before there was home funds and before there was ERP.
Yeah, before the right of way.
This is what we were divvying up. Okay, and there's agreement with Commerce, and then there's the homeless services contracts, items 3 and 4.
Yeah, and then, so item 3 is the contract with Commerce, is a 2-year award. Item 4 is the recommendations coming from the Regional Housing Council to make awards for those funds. These are 1-year contracts, so that's why you see the dollar difference of $14,696,000 for 17 organizations for 49 projects. This includes, in addition to the Commerce dollars from the state, this also does include our local dollars, document recording fees, as well as local sales tax awards.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? You said there's multiple funds. I'm curious about, can you multiple sources?
Yeah, so all the sources of funds, so the state money includes what they call the Consolidated Homeless Grant. It includes what used to be called the Eviction Prevention Rent Assistance dollars. It's now called Homeless Prevention. Emergency Housing Fund, Housing and Essential Needs, a Document Recording Fee Supplemental Fund, as well as what they're calling inflationary funds. So those are all the different buckets that we receive from the state under the Consolidated Homeless Grant Total Contract. The local funds that we're awarding here are local document recording fees. What used to be known as 2163, they're now known as 5386 funds. They just consolidated the legislation. There's also the Human Services Fund. Local jurisdictions contribute 0.5% of local sales tax dollars. And then also 30% of our local home fund dollars. So under the local home fund, 60% needs to go to capital projects, so you've awarded those capital funds, and then 30% can be used for services. And so that 30% for services is incorporated into And these awards that the Regional Housing Council, through a request for proposal process, went out and solicited applications.
So the local home fund dollars, those are the ones that I'm most curious about, and, you know, like, those are the ones that I'm, you know, wondering for, you know, that's the money that we have the ability to do a lot of different things with. I mean, are we tying up money that might be needed for this emergency other purposes by allocating it here when we have other jurisdictions saying we might have to shut down this, you know, this encampment or this village, or, you know?
Yeah, and I would say that yes, and that these funds are going to fund our legacy homeless services. And so these funds are funding the Interfaith Works Unity Commons Shelter, the Family Support Center, Hair Blossom Shelter, the Community Youth Services, Rosie's Place, our rent assistance program. So these, in a lot of ways, are not new programs. These are our kind of legacy homeless services that we've been funding.
But I still, you know, like, I have concerns that, like, you know, like, are we really looking at this the way that we need to make sure that, you know, these funds are being used, you know, like that's like that, it's that home fund dollars are the only ones that we can use to maybe, you know, protect those individuals that are, you know, at risk. Like, that's like, I know everything gets braided together, and I'm wanting to know if we should be unbraiding things and setting aside what we can set aside, because there's money that we can't set aside.
Yeah, so some of this money from the state is dedicated for specific tasks like rent assistance programs or things like that. I would say, for example, I think Unity Commons is a good example. In the previous 2 years, under this state, this kind of legacy homeless services, we provided $1 million approximately to Unity Commons, and then they received another $1.2 million under right-of-way. This year, we're proposing to provide $1.9 million to Unity Commons under this funding to really try to make up some of that gap that was lost from the right-of-way funding. It's not fully making up that gap, but it was an effort to reduce that gap for as much as possible.
But I'd say, Commissioner, it's like an ecosystem that this funding supports. I think it's hard for staff here and now to talk about changing or pulling some of the funding because we would have to sit down and understand how each of those services impacts that ecosystem. That briefing can be provided to the commissioners. We can sit down.
But that briefing doesn't help if we already obligate the funds. So, like, I want to push pause on any home fund dollars in my mind until we can get that all briefed out.
I'm gonna talk on this. So all of the dollars that are listed in this are broken down in this information that they gave us earlier today. So, like, if you read through the information we were given yesterday, you can see every dollar and how it's broken down. And I just want to remind folks that, especially with these homeless service contracts and the 17 nonprofit organizations and the 49 projects, that there was a whole entire process that went behind the scenes. There was a vetting, there were people applied, and the Housing Council, I mean, it's this entire thing that's been going on all year, and this is the final step in that. And the one thing that I want to remind this board of today, or make sure that people are very much emphasized, is that these nonprofits are out there waiting for these dollars. I know of several people who are currently waiting just to get into housing because they're waiting for these dollars to be contracted. So like, for example, the Housing Essential Needs Program, Catholic Community Services has a waiting list of about 29, there's like 30 people who are just waiting for us to sign this contract, who will be in a house by next week, once we get you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say, is that these specific dollars now, whereas the other two that we just talked about, a little different. So it's like, it's complex, but the ones that are going out to our already contracted people within our county, those are really important operating dollars, and everyone's work is on pause until we release them. So I'm not okay with us moving this to the 29th, like these ones. They're really important, and I just want to emphasize that it is essentially whether or not somebody is able to get into a house in a month, or Unity Commons is able to continue to provide their services. They're getting services, and it's all those services are listed right here if you want to review them.
I understand that, and it's important that we talk about this out loud. And, you know, we're talking about, you know, $25 million, and a portion of that is home fund dollars that are largely discretionary, and that if that's the only available money that is there to prevent other people from losing their homes, then I think we need to stop and have that conversation. I understand that there's programs in here that are helping people get into homes, and that's important too. But, you know, we've got other jurisdictions that are, you know, raising red flags saying, hey, we might have to shut this program down and people are going to be put out on the street. And if the only money available to help them out with that is a small portion of that 25 million that we have, you know, we have some, you know, some latitude over, then we should probably have that discussion before that money's locked up. And I understand that there's been a year-long discussion about priorities, but if we sent out a policy statement or a position statement on you know, to the different bodies that are having these discussions, and that wasn't heeded, wasn't conveyed, wasn't understood, wasn't advocated for, I don't know, then their priorities are not aligned with reality when it comes to like actual like funding framework. And so if there's people that are going to lose their homes if we make this decision right now, then my preference would be pause, unpack it, have more conversations, and figure out, make sure it's the right thing that we wanted to do. Because they're going to come knocking later and want money one way or another. Olympia is already upset.
Well, is it okay if I talk again? Yeah, I mean, I just want to make, it really worries me that we get to this point, like if we need to be having briefings on this months ago, you know, because this has been going on for months, that we get to the point where all of these groups are waiting on this funding, and then it comes before the Board of County Commissioners, and the commissioners decide to unravel it all. I mean, that's where it's all listed, it's all here. If we would have done our reading before we came to this meeting, we would be able, or we go to any of the Regional Housing Council, or we would have had a briefing months ago, then, you know, that would have shown us that this is how the process works, this is what the regional housing, and I am just really concerned that we have all of these groups, civic engagement going on behind the scenes of people who are working, volunteering to be on the Regional Housing Council, on the Homeless Services Lived Experience Group, on all of these different groups who are bringing these recommendations forward, who really understand the complexity of the housing market here. And then it gets to us and we say, hold on, let's pause. Let's not take their recommendations.
That's not what's happening. We've had multiple briefings. We've had multiple conversations. We all understand that, you know, what is on the AIS, but, you know, some of these things have changed. It's not clear that all of the changes have been continually communicated, you know, so there is new information. You know, Olympia went into a recent RHC meeting and shot a flare up in the air and said, hey, hold on, help. And so things have changed, and we have to respond to that, I feel.
Commissioner Klaus?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. I want to make a couple comments. First being, if we were to not move forward with this, there would be a higher risk of many more people losing housing than if we were to pause to ask for some sort of comprehensive overview, which we can still do afterwards. The draft letter to the mayors that was sent in January asked that we proactively address the potential ramifications of a shortfall by pausing county and local jurisdictional spending related to any new housing and homelessness initiatives until we can establish a robust contingency plan to address these pressing issues without relying on state funding. When we had that conversation, we asked staff for that contingency plan. I don't know that we've been updated on that. I don't think we have, which is why we're having this conversation. And in addition to that, this is the legacy funding that has been around for so long. This is not about new homeless and housing initiatives. So nothing has gone against the letter that was sent to the mayors. This is continued funding for sources that have already been receiving funding. So,
I hear that, and my concern is if the only contingency plan available is home fund dollars.
but I don't think it is. We haven't been told that it is.
I know we haven't told that it isn't, and like,
Lots more than just home fund dollars. that
not
could be used.
not that we have that much latitude over it. Otherwise, this would be a much easier conversation. The only money that we really have a lot of like discretionary ability with is those home fund dollars. And that's something that's collected from each jurisdiction for these things.
I don't think that anybody's wrong with what they're saying. I just feel, my sense is that, I'm gonna look to you guys to tell me if I'm way off base, but I think if we had the breakdown right now of like every home fund project, like, it would be all like super, yeah, and
Right.
Rachel's
they're all
here.
important.
It's
They're
here.
all like, it wouldn't be something where it would be like, yeah, let's just shut Rosie's place down and send the money over to, Unity Commons. It sounds like you guys or the team already
Good job.
did, it was pre-commerce shifts, but there was already a recognition that there was gonna be a gap at Unity Commons, and there was already like, we gotta keep that going, and then you sound like you went from 1.2 million to 1.9 million, and that's more than a 50% increase to try to address the priorities that you're concerned about, that Olympia was concerned about, that we're all concerned about. Whether at this point there could be some more shifting around, maybe, but I do hear that there's a timing, it's nobody's fault, but like when we get an 11th hour shift from commerce, basically, it's already a tight time frame.
Is there truly a time concern with these, or is there?
These aren't commerce funds that we're talking about right here.
No, but I'm just saying that if we stopped home fund, like if we like Commissioner Fournier's proposal or suggestion that we would pause approval of these.
Yeah, I would, for these, from my perspective, there is a time concern on these. Agencies have been notified that these are the recommendations coming. The contract from Commerce starts July 1, so agencies have continued to operate their programs, incurring expenses with the expectation they'll be reimbursed as of July 1. And the RHC interlocal agreement, so if you kind of did not agree to this and sent this back to the RHC, it would probably take the RHC some time to then come up with a new recommendation. And so it puts those nonprofits at real financial burden to carry those costs for, into the future without a surety of reimbursement.
Chair, if I may, the known deficit that we were tracking from Commerce, staff did come up with a contingency plan. That's what the RHC technical group, it was a loss of 4 million, which is a significant loss. They came up with a plan that worked for each of the cities in the county. That's what Commerce changed. We talked about that the last item. In this group of funding, I don't believe there's anything new that we're funding that hasn't already been in place. So this was the allocation knowing that these dollars are being committed. But hearing the conversation from the commissioner level, we will absolutely, in the months leading up to something coming, to your point, Commissioner Grant, take the opportunity to go over in some work sessions specifically what's forming in the recommendations, so we have time, if there's adjustments needed, to make those adjustments. And I think that, to Tom's point, some of the changes were unknown at that time, and we don't know if there will be more changes. So we do believe that updating the board and getting you really acquainted with how this funding works and unbraiding the braid so that you can see the different streams will be very important as you are put in the position to make these decisions.
I mean, I would give I'm looking at Commissioner Klaus because she's a rep, but like I would expect in this situation, the RHC to go, like if these shifts that happened really changed the thought process, because they were down in the weeds, then I as an RHC leader or, as an RHC body would be like, hey, commissioners, let us have an emergency meeting to like make some, like to adjust our recommendations. Don't prove this yet. We need to do this. And like that would be like where I would expect that flow to come. For us at our level, without having gone through the process of all the prioritization, to kind of look from top down and go, well, we think you guys kind of got it wrong and, oh, you know, we're almost at the end of we're end of July. Like, I don't know that that's gonna work. And it probably, like I was saying before, it's always a compressed time frame, but when you throw in some new information at the, like after, it makes it almost unworkable. Like to say that.
Then we're not giving then we are not given the opportunity to advocate on what the regional and board priorities need to be. If I'm being told, hey, there's a time frame here and, we have to be mindful of that because we've already let these other agencies know that they've been recommended for funding and they're expecting this. So do I really get the opportunity to say thumbs up or thumbs down? I don't. We don't. It's a symbolic thumbs up. That's it. Then we're not true. Then we're not the decision-making body and we're not being able to make sure that regional needs and priorities are being met and responded to.
I would just say that
if the priority, if it went out and said, hey, guys, the foundation is shifting from beneath us, these need to be prioritized, and that, that message is missed somehow for whatever reason, then it comes to us, we have to say, hey, stop, no. And if we're not given the opportunity to do that, then that makes this whole thing really that's not like governance, that's just symbolic.
I understand, but I guess the way I see it is, we did get that opportunity. We were comfortable with the original funding recommendations. Now, as to this last curveball we've been thrown, yeah, you're right. The timing is just such that we're not gonna get that real chance to go up or down, or it's kind of, or we're at least constrained in our ability to do that. But if you think about it, we did ask for priorities. I do think that they were considered and they were aligned with the way RHC prioritized things. We did have briefings and we had presentation from staff about here's how we're gonna take this 5.5 million and make it all work. I thought that through in my head and thought, okay, I'm comfortable with that. If I wasn't, I could have said, nope, I'm not comfortable with this. So we're just getting this is a weird year because we're getting this 11th hour curveball. And now I think we are in a position where our backs are against the wall and timing is important. And we may not have the ability to send it back through the process. Because the process is, for better or worse, that we negotiated was commissioners have last say, but it's up or down. And if we say down, we don't get to say where the money goes. We send it back to the RHC.
We can send it back with notes.
Yeah,
we can send it back and say, hey,
suggestions.
If you want it to pass, it needs to look a little more like this. And that's what we were trying to do up front. I know that I've asked these questions all year because, like, in my mind, this is where we were going to end up. And so trying to avoid this last minute discussion has been my desire all year. That was the whole point in the letter. That's been the whole point in a lot of the questions I've asked. Yet here we are, so I'm a little frustrated. Yeah, I'm a little frustrated because, my understanding of this whole funding suite is those home fund dollars that we have, that we asked our own residents to pony up for, or visitors, because it's sales tax. That's what this is for. It's, it's to take care of these folks. And there's people that, whose live, Olympia's saying their lives are on the line. And I don't want to miss an opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that it just, I think you summed it up really well, Ty, of just kind of like all of the things have happened. And I just want to remind folks that, like, for me, it's really important that we recognize the work of the people who are doing civic work for us. Like the process, as it seems to me, it's supposed to be, is that we're appointing people to the board. So like we just are about to approve someone to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And we have to trust that that person that we decided to appoint to this, the advisory committee, is going to make good decisions about the funding down the road. And so we've already gone through and we've appointed all these different people and we've put all of these people put hours and hours and hours into these recommendations. They've done this for free. And then it gets to us and then we have to say, we trust that you thought about our recommendations, that you're representing the county in the best possible way, that we believe that these recommendations are good, and that's our job to kind of go, okay. And if we think we're not getting that done, then we revisit it for the following year and think about doing it differently. But I just, worry that, something that's like that we, it gets all the way to this point and then we, dismantle it. It feels like we're throwing, that's what happened to me and why I ran for office, was that TST, I went through 2 years of TST funding and got here and you guys voted down our recommendations. And I thought to myself, why did I spend 29 hours going through painstakingly identifying which projects needed to be funded for you to vote it down? And then I ran for office, right? So those kinds of things, that is where it's like, we've got to figure out, we've got to organize ourselves in a way that puts our board in a situation that whenever this gets to us, we feel like we can trust the recommendations. That's what I would encourage down the road. For this specific thing though, I want to just make sure that when I agree that there are a couple of these items at the top, these encampment resolutions that have to do with right-of-way funding, that we need to look more carefully and closely, and I'd like them to bring us back the home fund dollar background. But when it comes to existing contracts that actually fund everyday people's actual livelihood on a daily basis, which is what these home service contracts are, we've got to make sure that we get the money out and that we get these nonprofits funding because they're waiting for the money. And so I would really encourage us to keep this on. These two items that are 3 and 4 need to stay on today and need to move forward.
Just like a question for staff to maybe help us kind of understand the process here when we are given a curveball at the last second from the state. We can't just go back and say, no, we're not gonna listen to you, right? I mean, could the board, do we have the authority to say, no, we're not gonna approve Commerce recommendations, we're gonna approve what the RHC had already presented before Commerce came with this last minute change?
So going back to the ERP contract with Commerce, yeah, so our contract with Commerce has a scope of work that lays out the projects that Commerce has asked us to fund. So we would have to renegotiate that before we can sign that contract. We don't have that money to award to other agencies until we sign the contract with Commerce.
Yeah, so they set the terms of the contract and then we agree to it. We can't just say, no, thank you, because then they won't enter the agreement with us. But our
Well, we
hope is
can
that,
go back and renegotiate the contract potentially, or say those priorities don't match up with us.
it's our hope to have a conversation and to understand why they made the changes and to advocate for a change, yes.
No, we cannot just spend the money on whatever we want. We can only spend the money on what they say we can spend the money.
Correct.
Okay, so we have, I guess the decision point we have is to keep these two items 3 and 4 related to home and service contract dollars on the agenda for today's business meeting. It sounds like Commissioner Grant and Klaus would like to keep those on. I think that I would like to keep them on as well. Just everything, I mean, with all due respect to Commissioner Fournier's concerns, which I think are 99% valid, but I just think given the situation we're in, chronology and timing and this curveball and the things that are actually being funded, I think I'm gonna keep these on, or that would be my vote. So.
I just want to say too, like, I appreciate your concerns, Commissioner Fournier, because I'm hearing you say you don't want people to lose their housing.
Right.
And the enthusiasm, I mean, maybe enthusiasm is not the right word, but like the sense of urgency behind that you're bringing to this conversation, I really appreciate that. And I hope that the same sense of urgency can be applied to all situations when we're talking about, other funding sources outside of these, which is what we're asking to do is like, let's get a comprehensive overview of what can be spent on these kinds of services. So if there, I have the same sense of urgency and I hope that we can like look outside of the contracts that exist to find additional funding for this important issue, especially we're gonna keep getting thrown curveballs because everything's changing from the top down. So having a localized response and figuring out how do we shift our priorities here at the local level when there might be an absence of funding is a really important conversation to have.
Yeah, and I thank you. And like my thing that I'm saying is we did that and we created the home fund. That sales tax, we created that exactly for this, but it's being tied up. And like I'm saying, that's where I'm saying, hey, hold on, because there's not other money. There isn't. Like, we're in a deficit. We can't just magically pull that from, you know, the auditor's office or, you know, the sheriff's department. Like, there's not other money. We're putting a ton, $25 million. That's a lot of money. And like, a portion of that is that money that you're saying we should go look for. We already created it in 2020, what was it, 2022, something like that, when the home fund was passed. And so, like, what I'm worried about is that we're gonna lose our opportunity to help these folks, because that money with that discretion, we're obligating it prematurely. Not all of that, but there's a portion of that we have access to, that we're giving up access to. And, you know, like, I respect advisory boards, but it's advisory. They're not policy boards. They make advice to us, and we see things at the next level up that are, you know, from different perspectives. And we don't just appoint people to boards and then put it on autopilot. And sometimes things do come before us, just like the treatment sales tax thing. Like, there were reasons that came up that Commissioner Klaus was like, hold on, let's reallocate those funds in such a way, because at this level, she had a different purview, different perspective. And that might be frustrating when you're serving on a board, but that's your job, you know? And if you don't like your job, then you run for that next higher up office, exactly like Commissioner Grant did. And then you sit here, and then you get the opportunity to make those decisions based on everything that you know from a different seat. That's the way.
30% of home fund is like 2.5 million, is that?
It's about 1.3 million.
That's 30% of our local home fund of counties?
Yes.
Well, I was just gonna say, and this kind of was before you guys had that little conversation, which was good, but, you know, the RHC in general, I think there's, I guess I appreciate this conversation. It's important because there's a like, two things. One is, when we created the RHC, the previous county manager and some of the folks that were involved in putting it together, like, had a vision for growing it into kind of evolving it. Like, we were like, let's get it started like this, but like, we kind of understood, Tom, you may remember some of this, like, we were like, probably needs a director at some point and a different staffing model, and it shouldn't be all in the back of the county, and like, you know, it was all about, you know, kind of like, part of it was financial, like who's gonna be supporting it financially, but also like, how is everyone gonna have like the equal voice that we all wanted to see and all that. So there was kind of like, there was some thinking that was gonna happen and potential evolution of the structure. And that happened a little bit, but not completely. And then, like, the whole up or down thing, like, we were at the mayor's forum, and like, some of the mayors at the table didn't even know that was like how it was structured. Like, I think Debbie Sullivan, of, just to call her out, of Tumwater, like, didn't even realize that, like, the way we structured it, and it was a compromise based on a bunch of negotiations that I had with the city of Lacey and some others at the time, was commissioners would have final authority, but only on an up or down basis. So we don't just shift, like we did for TST, where we did shift the money around the way we wanted. We're not gonna do that. We're only gonna go, we approve or we don't approve, and we ship it back to you. And like Commissioner Fournier said, we could say, here's what we'd like to see if you want this approved. You know, I mean, that plays out however it plays out, but ultimately it's an up or down authority. Well, people, like 5 or 6 years into this, and there were mayors that didn't even actually realize that. So I mean, I guess what I'm highlighting is, like, there's probably, it's probably time for some conversations about, you know, how to get the RHC, like, what's the vision for it? How could it be better? How can we structure it in a way that, that would make it more effective, you know? And so this is kind of a good prelude to a broader, bigger conversation.
Well, it's perfect timing, Chair, because we did just finish our annual retreat and had these conversations.
Oh, great.
And we're getting ready to have a follow-up on that, so that we can solidify some of the exact things you said. So we should be getting more information on that really soon.
Yeah, I know, like, every time I stumble into a conversation with Mayor Ryder at Lacey, he's always got a lot of ideas and thoughts. And for a while, he was an alternate. So he was, you know, he's seen it with his own eyes. I think for about a year, he sat as alternate for Lacey. And so, anyway, everybody's got different thoughts, but anyway, this just shows kind of how, like, clarifying that structure and maybe enhancing it would really be timely.
And just to correct my number, it's 1.5 million of local home fund is in here.
Okay.
So $5 million, 30% of 5 million is 1.5.
Which is not a lot. Making.
Out of 25 million, yeah, I mean, like you say, it sounds like they already
Well, the
kicked.
25, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. The 25 million is commerce dollars. That doesn't include the local dollars. The local dollars are included in the 14 million in the award, but the local dollars aren't included in the $25 million contract with the Department of Commerce.
The next one.
Yeah,
Oh, they're on
Number
top of that?
Well, we're talking about items 3 and 4.
Yeah, well, my point is just that, as Commissioner Fournier said, like, if we had like, okay, let's say 1.5 million per year, 3 million over a biennium
Correct.
to play with, so to speak, meaning
That's
more
just the
flexible.
operational.
It's just a
There's-
tiny little bit.
No,
Right, I
it's a
mean-
total, we get like 4 or 5 million a year from the home fund, right?
Correct. So approximately 5 million a year, 10% is going to kind of staff costs, administration, 60% goes to capital dollars, so, and then 30% for services.
I'm saying what stratum of this homeless services piece would be that discretionary money? We're talking about 9% or something like that, right?
And yeah, well, 1.5 million isn't a lot in the overall scheme of this. 1.5 million would be a lot to those projects that we're all concerned about. Or even a portion of that.
And if we took 1.5 million away from these projects, that, I would argue that would have harm for those projects as well.
I just want to make one last point, that this illustrates for me, again, the need to have some sort of finance committee so that we can dig really deep into the new, because this is one topic out of all the different things the county does. There's so much nuance and history and context behind every single fund source that we have. And we talk, we throw out the phrase that we're turning over couch cushions, but are we actually, have any commissioners gone page by page through every voucher list that we sign every week to see what we're really spending every dollar on? Because a finance committee could take a really close look at all the fund sources and what they're being spent on and how much is discretionary in each source. And I really think that that would be beneficial. We have 5 commissioners and we can do a lot more of those subject-specific committees. And I think it's an underutilized tool that could be really effective during this uncertain time.
Topic for another day, Commissioner
Another day.
Klaus.
Could we get that added to a future agenda to have that conversation?
It's up to the board.
What is your suggestion
permission.
exactly?
I like to, well, if it's not on an agenda, I'll just raise it during commissioner items. But my question is, can we have a conversation about what it would look like to develop a finance committee?
So do we have to get board approval to have something added to an agenda? Because that's what I just heard. That it's up to the board if we want to add something to the agenda.
Not if it's a
Can we just get some
commissioner's.
clarification on that, please?
You can bring things up in commissioner item, but the agenda to be approved does require a board vote.
Well, the business agenda, but like an agenda for a work session or a commissioner's check-in. We can request items
Yeah,
for
it's
this.
never really been, I think you can add it to a commissioner, as a commissioner item to a check-in or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's just do it at that level, Madam Clerk. Maybe not this week, but next commissioner check-in that comes
Right.
up.
That'd be great, yeah. And I just want to
As a
acknowledge
topic
that,
of conversation, and then we
Yeah.
can talk up, see where the board's at. Commissioner Mejia will be back.
yeah, I would appreciate that too.
Okay, let's do that. So let's finish this. So it sounds like we have concurrence to keep, or we have a majority to keep 3 and 4 on the agenda. Let's move on to item 5, Disability, Development Disability Administration County Program Agreement. Thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you. Hold on just one minute, I'm making sure that I'm in order here. Yes. The 7, great, thank you. This is a request for the board to approve the Thurston Mason County Developmental Disabilities Services agreements with Career Quest, Center Forest, Exceptional Foresters, EFI, Morningside, and Bottis for a combined total of $7,629,171 to provide supported employment, high school transition, job foundation, and community inclusion services for the period of July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And I have Mark Moffett here for his expertise.
This is our annual contract. This is the core of our program to provide development of disabilities services for individual employment, community inclusion, school to work, job foundation. And so this is what we get from Development Disabilities Administration, who just changed their name to Development of Disabilities Community Services. And we distribute the money that they give to us to the 5 agencies, the employment agencies within our county. This is for not only Thurston, but Mason as well.
Questions on item 5? Nope. And let's go to item 6, which is also same team here, professional services agreements for supported employment, high school transition, job foundation, and community inclusion services.
So it goes right along with it to accept the money and then be able to push it out.
Okay, flip side of the same program. Questions? All right, thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. Public Works next. Item 1 under subsection 7 is contract award for WashDOT US 101 Schneider Creek project, CP number C70007.
Yes, still, good morning, Commissioners. Matt Huntsman, County Engineer. Public Works is requesting the Board of County Commissioners award a contract for the WashDOT US 101 Schneider Creek project to Black Hill Excavating of Olympia, Washington, in the amount of $611,272. The project will provide stormwater retrofits to manage and treat highway runoff off of US 101 near the Steamboat Island Road exit. The median and the shoulders between the northbound and southbound lanes of US 101 will be retrofitted with a combination of media filter drains and bio-infiltration swales to treat approximately 2.5 acres of high traffic roadway. Public Works receives annual stormwater fees from the Washington State Department of Transportation, which can only be used for stormwater projects that mitigate the impacts from WashDOT right-of-ways. If approved, construction would begin in August.
So those are like pretty strict like parameters?
Very strict
And
parameters.
and what, like, do we have a list of projects that meet that?
Yeah, so our stormwater CIP would have projects that only fees that connect to WashDOT could be used for.
This is our most important one.
This is the biggest one, yeah.
So we're also evaluating the benefit of continuing to accept those revenue dollars from the state, because we have a finite amount of resources, and there is a requirement to do work for receiving those monies to do the on county or state highways, address the water. So I know just in terms of a continuous evaluation of making those right decisions and how do you allocate a scarce amount of resources, the department is currently evaluating that. But in the meantime, this is a project that we've accepted funds on,
And our resources are what? Like there's matching money, or just the time spent doing the work
yes,
versus
Yes.
you can't do another project?
correct.
So like you're saying, even though we're getting paid to do it, if there's more important projects to be done, then this may not be worth.
That's an evaluation that the department is looking into.
Okay, any questions on item 1? All right, good. Let's go to item 2, contract award for Little Rock Road and 113th Avenue Southwest, bridge and intersection improvement project.
All right, I'm excited about this one, and I think it'll be pretty apparent why. Public Works is requesting the Board of County Commissioners to award the contract for the Little Rock Road and 113th Avenue Bridge and intersection improvements to Quigg Brothers from Aberdeen, Washington, in the amount of $2,932,569. Public Works has already received $2,262,460 in federal funds, and the remaining cost would come from transportation impact fees. We received 5 bids for this project in our response to the call for sealed bids, and Quigg Brothers was the lowest responsive bidder. This project will improve both the mobility and safety at the intersection of Little Rock Road and 113th Avenue, but it also will replace the L5 bridge over Bloom's Ditch. The project will add a left turn lane on Little Rock Road to turn on to 113th Avenue. The existing bridge is more than 100 years old, and we know that it doesn't have any rebar in it. So replacing this bridge was a huge priority. In fact, it was the #1 identified bridge in our bridge index for replacement. The existing short span bridge will be replaced with a 50-foot long bridge that will be supported on piling. I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is a good bridge to replace. Bridge? Bridge excitement? Let's get some enthusiasm for the bridge. It's okay.
All right, thanks, Matt. Seems like we're good on that.
Bridges, I love your bridges.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner reports. Weren't we calling those commissioner community reports?
Yes, we do.
We add that word back in. This helps to clarify for the public what it is. And then that's the agenda. So we've got a couple of removals. We have our agenda. Next up is commissioner items. Is there anything you'd like to raise?
I have a,
Go ahead,
something
Commissioner
I'd
Grant.
like to bring up. Well, I have been, looking pretty closely at House Bill 2015, talking with Teresa Muscata and others about how other counties are thinking about legislative proposals for that. And it's a very complicated, one of those areas of, this is public safety funding stuff. I sent an email out requesting to put together a meeting on that at the request of Joe Avalos. And, explicitly, I feel like as an elected policymaker, I have the right and an obligation to bring forward ideas and proposals and legislative options, right? And so I should be, when I need to have a meeting around something so that I can start thinking about what those options are, I would like to be able to have that meeting. I want to be able to come to our revenue meetings and our budget meetings in a week or two, fully prepared in advance for, to be able to engage in discussions around revenue. And so I asked for a meeting from the county manager and was told that I needed to know and that I needed to ask you guys in order for me to be able to pull together a meeting to start thinking about how we utilize funding. And so I'm just bringing that here because I am concerned about the fact that if I ask for information from the county or information from the county manager, or to have a meeting with different people to discuss things so that I can bring legislative stuff to, legislative proposals here, that I should be able to do that without board approval.
I don't understand what you're saying.
So I'd like to have a meeting and I would like your approval to have a meeting.
No,
because, yeah.
You said a whole bunch of different things. You talked about 2015, you talked about this, you talked about that, you talked about county manager. One thing at a time.
Okay.
And I'd love to address whatever you have to say, but please be specific on one topic so that we can hear exactly what you have to say.
I would like to have a meeting with multiple stakeholders to talk about potential current uses of revenue for that are happening in our county that might help inform a full proposal for House Bill 2015.
And why do you think the board needs to approve that?
Because I was given here's the exact message. I was told by the county manager that I asked for the meeting and the county manager responded that the budget team is preparing to discuss the revenue options, that we'll have some information for you, but we're waiting for the board to provide direction on revenue options, and that and I wasn't granted the meeting.
Where in that does it say you can't have a meeting with people?
It doesn't.
Okay, it doesn't, just making sure.
Yeah, so this is a bit awkward, but I'll speak to the issue that Commissioner Grant brought up. The request in the email, and I'll gladly share it with all the board members, wasn't necessarily for a meeting. It was to pull staff together to gather information. And actually it was sent to myself, Commissioner Mejia, and Joe Avalos. And Commissioner Mejia actually was the first one that responded and said, in order to get staff to do all this work, she was recommending to Commissioner Grant that that's board direction, which I agree. I never spoke to about whether or not to have the meeting. What I weighed in is that we were coming to the board to talk about revenue options. Actually, we'll be discussing that next week. And that the board, once the board decides on which revenue options we can explore, a lot of the requests that Commissioner Grant had in her email to do the research on, that then would be the board's direction as to whether what revenue options we should be exploring.
So the issue wasn't, can I have a meeting? The issue was directing staff to do a bunch of work. And the county manager said, hey, hold on, that's not in our work plan right now. That would create a burden on staff. If that's something that the board wants, then that can be authorized, but that's not something that a single commissioner can direct.
Correct.
Okay, that's a different story than I
We
heard
have
from
a, so
Commissioner
we
Grant.
have a county man,
It's a different thing.
We have a county manager's role, it was called, Paula, but it was really what was more about this issue. And this was before there were 5 commissioners. We clarified this back on beginning of my first term. And it was kind of like the county manager is kind of the gatekeeper for any single commissioner's direction for, like, it was clarified that, I'm just paraphrasing it because I obviously don't have it memorized, but it was basically like, if I want information that can be easily ascertained, I can get that at any point from any staff member or director. If I want information, if I want a work product to, some research done, anything that would take a substantial amount of time, and it's the county manager's determination of whether what's substantial, then it needs board approval.
Okay.
And that was because we had a commissioner at the time going and doing all sorts of stuff at CPED, and I was concerned about that, and we hammered out this policy. So it's kind of like you go to the county manager with what you want, and if he says that it's de minimis or it's informational, it should be summarily approved with but if he feels that it's like, it's gonna take up, some time, then it does need to have the board, because you can imagine a commissioner going and, diverting staff members because they want, a write-up on some, they're not our policy staff. So that was a concern, that we had problems with that back in 2019, and there's a policy floating out there that, we can get you, just to see kind of what the rules and.
Yeah, I've seen it.
The
Okay,
thoughts are
I
on
just
that.
needed to make sure that I understood, because, if I'm trying to prepare and to get information for upcoming meetings, like, the deal is that if we come to these budget meetings and I don't have all of the information that I need, I'm just gonna continue to abstain and continue to say no. I don't have the information I need. I've waited and waited and waited and waited and waited for revenue and it's been months and months. And I'm sorry, but when it comes to, I don't have an ability to shut off the fact that I was a budget chief at one point in time, and that I need to fully understand the implications and all of the different sources of revenue before I make decisions about our budget or policy decisions about our budget. And what I don't want to have happen is for us to come up to these meetings in the next several months and for me to not have the information that I need. So if I have information that I'm asking for, I would like to be able to, and I would be happy. Maybe it would have been fine if we would have just come back and said, here, I can give you this information, or here we could have this meeting, or let's just have a conversation collaboratively to talk about what you'd like to ask for, Commissioner Grant. That would have been appropriate to me. But for me to just simply refuse and say that I need to come back here and talk to everyone about getting information, that was hard. But
And it was
hearing what you're
Commissioner Mejia
saying.
that said that to you? And it sounds like it was appropriate.
Well,
but,
it sounds, I just needed clarification in this meeting to understand it.
Okay.
That's all.
And
guys.
next time, maybe we could do it without accusations.
Well-
There's a better way to do things. If you're frustrated, that's okay. This is not easy work, And it's okay, but it's not okay to accuse people of not doing their job, or your frustration being masked or, paraded as obstruction. There's no obstruction. Just because, if you don't understand, or if it's hard to understand the difference between directing staff to do work and requesting information that already exists, that's okay, but it's not okay to lobby accusations of staff and say they're obstructing your work because you're having difficulty. So just please be mindful of that, especially in these open public meetings.
Right. Right, and I think that I just, and I will just say that I came in to just really understand process. And, it needs to be, and it's frustrating me that I would have, that I don't have, again, back to the need for us to have, very clear written out roles and responsibilities and procedures around how commissioners can get things done. Because some commissioners, it seems like, can have meetings and get the information they need, and other commissioners can't. And that's how it feels to me right now.
Any new job feels that way when you start learning how to do the job.
Sure.
And like you have a veteran commissioner, Mejia, who's trying to give you, some advice so that it doesn't come in here and create an awkward conversation. And going to your peers is usually a good place to try to understand those rules better as we work with the board clerk to suss those out and build out our.
Commissioner Klaus.
I just want to say, framing it as how, if it's hard for you to understand something, I don't think is quite appropriate, because it is confusing, and it's only hard to understand because we don't have the policies written, procedures written that we've asked for more times than I can count now in the last 6 months. And it just continues to not happen. So it wouldn't be so hard to understand the difference between asking staff to do work versus asking for information, because we don't know how much information staff have readily available. So when we're asking questions, hey, can you provide me with this? Can you do an analysis of this fund real quick and send it to me? Our previous budget manager was able to do that before all of these new processes started happening that are unclear. I was able to, and I'm not saying anything about our current budget manager, she's great. But processes in the past were much different. They were much easier to get the information we needed. I could have a meeting with a budget person, and say, hey, can you help me understand this? And they would look at the fund with me and help me think through it. So things are much different now. And we don't have those processes in writing. And we just saw that I asked for a conversation to be added to the agenda and was told it needs to be the full board. But that's not something that, considering this conversation, I'm not asking for anything besides for an item to be put on an agenda. And then the county manager looks at the full board and says, I need your approval. So there is confusion.
Well, it depends on what kind of thing, if we're doing a work session on something, that's different. That requires preparation and.
So it's discretionary.
Versus just saying, here's a topic for board discussion.
But if it's discretionary and and Leonard has, or anyone, it's not just Leonard, I'm not saying, and it's not fair to you that you don't have a way to be able to determine, yes, I should move forward, because it's just, we've let it be discretionary. It's, how, I just need some parameters so that I know what I can ask for and what I can't ask for, and not have it be discretionary.
You can ask for whatever you want,
And-
but when you're told.
No.
When you're told, hey, that would require this or that would require that.
Or it'll take
it's,
3 months.
A little diplomacy and understanding, and some things do take time, but just figuring out that landscape is how you navigate that. And there's nothing that prevents anybody from we bring up random things all the time under commissioner items. That's not always the best practice, but there's a tremendous amount of latitude for what you talk about and what you bring up. You just have to be mindful of how that affects others. Or if you bring up some one-off topic that surprises everybody, then you might send staff reeling. And, I'm trying to be a better person in how I do that. It's a learning and growing thing.
Okay, so
Commissioners, just as a reminder, we are working on the bylaws. That is in process. That information has been sent out to all of you, and the clerk is actively, so as soon as we have a section done, we'll send it for your review. Just know that the request for policy and procedures hasn't gone unresponded to. We're working on it.
Shouldn't there be a bylaws committee of some sort? Because we're asking, I don't know if it's just Amy putting the work into this, but why is the board not part of, like, we're gonna receive a
Writing
section that,
policy.
right, it just doesn't seem, we are the ones who have to abide by the bylaws, so why are we just waiting for those to be sent to us without, I mean, we've had the opportunity to give input on a table of contents. So now we're gonna be waiting for each section to be just sent to us? Is that the process?
Yeah, each section will be sent to you, then you can provide your comments back. Those will be incorporated before, excuse me, shared with the full board.
I mean, I've never been part of any governing body that has done bylaws without having people who sit on that body in those conversations prior to a draft being sent for feedback.
Well, the only experience that I have, not directly, but indirectly, was the experience of trying to get the code of conduct thing done, and I thought that was a failure, having a subcommittee. I mean, it was Commissioner Grant, Commissioner Mejia. Not everyone was at all the meetings, and the timeline was unrealistic, and I heard more from Commissioner Mejia about it. She's not here, so I'm not gonna try to speak for her, but I heard her opinion about how it all went. It didn't sound like it went very well. So I just didn't think it's very, I don't think it's very productive to go about it that way. We did several different policies in the past where the county manager, the former county manager, kind of put something together, the policy I was talking about, I mean, he would sort of look at different jurisdictions and kind of amalgamate and sort of sculpt something as a proposal, and then we'd all get to say, hey, I don't like that, and we marked it up and changed it. I mean, that just seemed like, versus having commissioners try to come up with the core proposal to work from, that does not seem productive to me. Having our staff come up with something, whether it's, you know, led by Amy or led by Leonard or led by an assistant county manager at their direction, to come up with something as a proposed like starting point for us to then put input into. I feel like that's the only way 5 people can come up. I felt like it was, you're starting to get me now frustrated, because I'm starting to remember how frustrated I was with the process of this board, and not just this board, but the previous board and the previous board before that, trying to wordsmith a document that's detailed and policy oriented. It's a complete disaster, and it's a waste of time, frankly. And I would completely oppose a subcommittee where any 2 of us would sit there and try to draft up bylaws that then would be brought to the board. Because then you're invested in what you put, and then it's like, then it gets like more personal and more difficult to get to a final product than it would have been if we just let, you know, so anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
Well, can I respond to that? I don't want, my goal is not to get you frustrated, because I know historically there has been a lot of frustration. I do think though, like, where maybe we look at the code of conduct subcommittee and say, hey, that didn't work like at all, then we can learn from that. We don't have to stop doing subcommittees on policy, on documents, just because one didn't go well. I have been part of bylaws subcommittees and some of my external committees that have gone really well. So I think maybe, you know, maybe not right this second in this conversation, but like trying to understand, how do we go about subcommittees when we want to implement one? Like, what is the purpose of it?
But for
What would
board
the
action,
process be?
that's parliamentary procedure.
But I'm not against subcommittees, but subcommittees to draft a policy document, I think those are different things. I mean, I think there can be really valuable subcommittees, but when it comes to like, I mean, Amy's being over-inclusive, but like the list of, you know, when I got that list of topics, possible topics, I was like, oh my God. But then as I started to think through like which ones would I want to take out, I was kind of like, you know, they all probably should be in there. I mean, it might just be one sentence, but actually I decided, you know what, let's try to hit a home run, and like let's try to include all those topics, because they're all pretty good topics actually. So I kind of talked myself out of winnowing it down. But
the topics are being responsive to requests commissioners have made
yeah,
about needs for clarification that have not gone unanswered, are being worked on. And we're working on them in a way in which to keep the board informed and to get your input, and that does take longer, because we send it out and we wait for input. Some give input right away, some need time to digest, which we totally understand, because you all have a lot going on. We take that into consideration, we send it back through. I do agree with you, Chair, that it is the most efficient way for this current board in working through something that dense and that complicated.
Yeah, I'm with Ty on the approach. You know, like any idea that comes up, you can make a motion to approve it, you can deny it, you can debate it, you can subcommittee it, you can remove, you know, but then you have to get a majority of the board to agree with whatever your idea is. And if, you know, a majority of the board is saying, hey, we're not ready to do subcommittees, then that's, you know, that's the way things are gonna go until there's a shift in the wind or until things evolve a certain way or, but, you know, it's just, it's how we want to do, it's how we do or do not want to do business is up to us.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap up this item, we've got information that will be coming to Commissioner Grant responsive to her request or email that the budget team's working on at some point, but is there a meeting that needs to happen or?
No.
We have a budget conversation on revenue sources next week. And it'll be the budget team's overlay of all of revenue sources available to the county, both councilmatic and by voter approval. And we'll look to get board direction as to which revenue sources you want us to research in detail, which could include conversations with external stakeholders about how do we work, make those revenue sources work.
Commissioner Grant, when you, if you haven't, whatever follow-up you think you need from that, we'll address and as a follow-up to what is not presented that you had hoped to see or need information about, we can discuss in the wake of that meeting. Any other commissioner items?
I have one.
Commissioner Claus?
I want to check in again for a third time about the Know Your Rights information that's been requested to be posted on county buildings, just a piece of paper, posted on county building doors, or have the information posted on our website. Can we get an update on that?
Absolutely. Our new communications manager is working with resources. I believe the direction was to go back and to take a look at what materials we had. We found those materials from when the former county manager posted them. And then also Commissioner Mejia did some outreach. It's a shame she's not here today. There are several topics that pertain to her, but she did some outreach and provided us some resources. So I think it's almost done having it available on our website that then we can share with the board and then get that posted and make it live. And then we can bring the conversation back and get further direction. So I don't believe there was direction about posting it on the buildings. That'll be up for the board to provide direction.
Yeah, I thought the consensus was to work, like, it was the county of Monterey, I think, that had a really good example and sort of to work toward a web-based approach.
Yes.
And that was direction to staff.
Almost done, yeah.
So that's where I thought that landed. I think we kind of sidelined, my recollection is we kind of sidelined the idea of having flyers or anything and kind of focus it on a web approach with the right info and links and stuff based on the Monterey model.
I think that we talked last time about having both.
There will be printable from the website, effectively like flyers people can print, and we're excited to show you the resources that are available because it's pretty comprehensive. There's even a really neat video that Monterey has produced in multiple languages that really walks through in an educational way what people's rights are and how to engage.
Yeah, and that's great. Anything that we can get out there is great. But I am really concerned about the pace of this process. I mean, and I know government moves slow, I get that. But it's been 4 weeks since I first brought this request forward. And we have ongoing and continuously increasing numbers of verified incidents where federal officers are coming to Thurston County and taking people out of the community. And we also have verified reports from all over around the country, including in Washington State, of people impersonating federal agents and abducting people and people disappearing. This is not an abstract conceptual like prediction of what could happen. This is happening now. And we don't even have something to where if a person walks into a county building, they can see that if they are approached by somebody who doesn't identify themselves, that they don't have to do what that person says. And this sends a harmful message to our community about what our priorities are and how urgent how urgent we're going to be taking this matter. And if we can't get some information out there, what are we gonna do when someone is abducted in our community? Are we just gonna sit on our hands and say we have to research this for 6 weeks? I mean, it's information that's readily available on so many different platforms. It sounds like Monterey has great information. There are tons of other agencies that have great information that's reputable, it's already vetted. Like, I think that it's irresponsible of us to allow this to still be delayed. I don't think we need to wait for a new employee to come on board and do something. Like, this is ridiculous, in my opinion. I'd like us to move forward with this without further delay. And if we have information from Monterey that can be used, I would like to see that posted, like within the next 48 hours, because it's been 4 weeks since I first brought this up, and I've been told we're researching it. And that's just not right. This is like unprecedented, and everybody is afraid. So I think this needs to happen immediately. And I would like to urge the board to please direct the county manager to do something about this within the next 48 hours.
I mean, I would agree that I think that it shows, you know, I mean, when we have, you know, urgent proclamations and things that, I mean, for us as a board, we need to show that we are taking this seriously and it's a serious issue. I mean, I would have to agree with Emily that I think it needs to be done quickly, and it's just escalating currently in our community, and with the recent other counties situation, you know, I think we just need, as a county, we should be showing our, you know, solidarity around the fact that we think this is important and this is an important issue, and it should be timely.
I don't think anybody said no. I mean, I think we are. Like we said, hey, work on this, and it's being worked on. And in the meantime, there's been no message that said, you know, we're not, you know, in support of it. So, you know, like, yeah, I agree. You know, and but I also don't think that like all of this information exists. So I don't want to like overplay our importance in the role and think that if we put this on our website or on our building, it's going to magically fix things. Like, you can Google Know Your Rights, and whether you Google it and it lands on the Thurston County website, the Monterey website, or, you know, some advocacy, like, the information's there. The information's there. And we're telling the world that this is important to us. We're doing that. So I don't want anybody to, like.
Where can I go and see Thurston County is telling the world that this is important to
Right
them?
now.
Where would
Right
I
now.
look
No,
at
right
it?
now in this meeting, we're all saying it. Right now, we're all saying
So
it
if
in
I were to
unison.
go to the county website to see how seriously.
We're all saying it, and we're all agreeing.
Right.
But
Saying
like,
it and taking action
we
is
are
different.
taking action.
No, we're
I
not.
understand, like, you're saying we want it now, and like, yeah, so do the rest of us.
I don't see that because the board could tell the county manager,
We already
have
did.
this posted on the website in 48 hours. We have the authority to do that. So are we taking it seriously or are we not?
I believe we are taking it seriously.
Can we make motions in this meeting? Because if not a motion, I would like to urge the board in this moment now to direct the county manager to have information posted on our website within 48 hours. That's a pretty concrete ask.
I will not support that motion. I mean, I attended a meeting last night of some members of council's was pulled together informally to share information about what's going on. I spent 2 hours speaking with 2 of the members from Olympia, 2 of the members from Lacey, a member of the Yonge Council, where we were discussing what everybody's doing. Nobody has this yet. Olympia's kind of taken the most concrete actions. My notes, I don't have my remarkable, my notes are upstairs. I can go over them with you after this meeting if you'd like. Olympia's taken a few different things. Some of them relate to their direction to law enforcement, which we don't really have the same structure with the elected sheriff, but Tumwater and Lacey have not taken any such steps, as you know, and I do support what you're asking for, but I don't feel comfortable Commissioner Mejia had explained to me, I haven't actually gone on and explored the Monterey website. I don't know the extent of it. I'm not an IT person. I don't know what it takes to put the information up and make it accurate. I know there's legal considerations about whether or not something, like, I would not want to put legal information up without it being, going through the proper channels. I know that it's maybe taken more time than I thought or you thought, but that doesn't surprise me because government moves slow, as you said. We have directed that it be done. My understanding is it's being done and it will be done. And I do not feel comfortable saying you're going to put that up in 48 hours. I do not have enough information to support that request. So I would not second your motion. Certainly appropriate for you to make the motion. I didn't hear a second.
But why don't you have the information available to you when staff have been researching it for 4 weeks?
I don't know that it's about the information, but
I'm just saying, because your comment just now was, I don't have the information that I need to support that motion.
because I just heard your motion just 5 minutes ago, that you want a website put up in 48 hours.
I asked for this 4
Okay,
weeks
there's
ago.
motion and second, discussion on the motion. That was my discussion on the motion.
Well, I just agree that, with Emily, that, and I guess I didn't hear I heard, can I make a motion? I mean, I think that's another one of these things where we don't know whether we can make motions in this meeting, I don't know what we can do. I still, as a commissioner, 7 months in, don't know where the appropriate thing, where we're appropriately supposed to be doing business. And so I second the emotion, and I agree that we should be taking a stand. I mean, it's a simple thing. We're just asking to put up Know Your Rights posters. It's not anything other than that. And so, I would agree that I think that it is a pressing enough issue, and that, I think we should be taking a stand as Thurston County. I don't really need to know what Olympia, I think that it's okay to be the first. It's okay to be the ones to say
Okay,
it's really important.
It's fairly okay,
So,
but the suggestion that it's irresponsible or somehow, I mean, like,
But
that,
that's-
the suggestion was somehow that, like, we're way off the rails to have not put this up like yesterday, and I don't know that that's actually true.
Yeah, just to make it sound like somebody's sandbagging this because they don't care is absolutely wrong. And it is not the way this board is moving forward. It is not the way this board thinks. Nobody is sandbagging anything or delaying anything. Again, being frustrated is okay, but there's also things that probably we don't understand, just as Commissioner Menser has said, who is an attorney. And, you cannot give legal advice. We cannot give legal
We are
advice.
not giving legal advice.
Are you an attorney? I'm not an attorney. We have to go through steps to make sure that we're not doing things wrong that get us sued. I don't want to get us sued. So like.
We are absolutely not, you know what?
It's.
I will die on the hill of the constitutional rights for every citizen in our county being made publicly available to them. That is not giving legal advice. We are providing information where they can go to find that they don't need to accept being taken into an unmarked vehicle by somebody who is not providing identification. We need to put that information out there. We need to make that information available. And what you said earlier about the importance of the board, no, I don't think it's going to change the world. I don't think that it's going to be, the sole thing that protects the community for us to put it on the website. But a lack of action is inaction. And at this point, we have not taken any action to formalize putting a piece of paper up that has information about your rights. Not information that we have made up, it's information that is somebody's constitutional right. And that needs to be made available.
Commissioner Mejia is obviously very passionate about this subject. I know because she was helping me prep for that meeting I went to yesterday, and she was texting me from her location, some notes. I know that she's working with a number of groups. It was her proposed approach that we worked through this, putting this website together, and I know it takes a little bit of time, and I accept the county manager's representation that it's happening and going to be in the short order, and I would want I personally would want Commissioner Mejia's input on something like on a motion like what you're proposing. So, I mean, I'm with you to a point, but
wanna say, like,
Is there a more reasonable, I'm gonna ask county manager, is there, I don't think 48 hours makes sense to me, but is there a more reasonable time frame, just so we can show the community, as Commissioner Klaus is looking, that we are putting, like, timeline on this and trying to get this done?
Yeah, I believe we can have this out in the next several days, definitely before the end of the week. I think part of the context is, it has been summer recess. The board did direct Commissioner Mejia and I to touch base because she was gonna do some outreach to communities. We have been working on it. And we've gathered those resources and they're being put into a web format so that it can be linked to our webpage. So, we are definitely following the board's direction and are close to implementing it.
Could we amend your motion to say within a week, 7 days?
By the end of the week.
by the end of this week, I would be willing to amend by the end of Friday, close of business.
Is that
Or
doable?
pull the motion and just let us continue on the path that we've already prescribed for the staff.
An amendment to my motion, close of business Friday, it's the motion.
I'll second that.
County manager says that can be done.
I believe so, yes.
All right, then I would support the motion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Could somebody please repeat the motion as they understand it for the record?
The motion,
Because sometimes we walk away after passing motions.
So we had a hand from the,
You only voted on the amendment, not the motion.
oh, sorry. Well, I interpret that as you pulled your motion and so, but why don't you restate the motion, since it's your motion?
Okay,
Maybe you can be clear and we can make sure that we're understanding, we're on the same page.
my motion is that the information being debated about
Know your-
posting information,
Motion related to know your rights.
right. My motion is that that information will be posted on the county website by the end of day Friday.
you don't want that information to come back to the board?
It should be able to come back to the board
And
before
then
it's
for-
posted.
Huh? What was that?
The information can come back to the board before it's posted.
You wouldn't want to take another look at it and approve it, or say, hey, this is not going far enough, or,
I would-
so whatever's posted, you accept it and we're done with it.
We can revisit after the fact if we need to, but I trust that the county manager and Commissioner Mejia are doing their due diligence to ensure that the information is adequate.
Yeah,
I
I've
think
seen
that's
them.
like, that's great that they're working on it. Let's get it posted. I don't need to see it to trust that they're doing what they need to do to get it done, but it just needs to be done. And if we look at it later and say, this doesn't quite hit what I thought, I trust the county manager and Commissioner Mejia that they won't put something up there that's not adequate. But if that happens to be the case, we can revisit it.
Okay, let's just redo
You
that.
trust them to put it up, but you don't trust them enough to not do the motion.
Trust
Is
him
that what
on
you just said?
content.
I'm just, I think that's funny.
Trust him on content, not timing. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, timing, no. Content, yes.
We have
There's also
Commissioner
action.
Mejia, we have Commissioner Mejia working on it, and I know that she's involved, like the chair said, in these various groups. So yes, I trust Commissioner Mejia to work with the county manager to ensure the information is accurate.
Okay, so is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, I think we've discussed it. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, other commissioner items? All right, good lively session this morning, commissioners. We're adjourned.